Welcome back, folks. My name is LastKnownMeal, and today we're going to be talking about CD Projekt Red because we did have Adam Kiciński, the joint CEO of the company, finally come out to talk about the company and about Cyberpunk 2077 as well as The Witcher 3 Next Gen. Because if you do remember, after Cyberpunk came out, CDPR went on somewhat of a radio silence, but now it seems they're finally going out into the open with new statements, interviews, and well, we're gonna be going through this one and see what we can learn about the future of the game and their company. So first things first, Adam Kiciński gets asked about Cyberpunk 2077 now that a year has passed, especially how they evaluate the game from the perspective of, this time, what is the greatest asset and what has failed within the game. Now keep in mind, this actually has been translated from Polish, so if there are any mistakes in translation, my apologies, I'm going with the Google Translate, but if someone wishes to correct me, you can do it in the comments section below. So this is what Adam Kiciński said about the release of Cyberpunk 2077 and about actually the console versions themselves because they were least polished. Cyberpunk 2077 is the largest, most ambitious, and by far the most complex project in our 27-year history. We try to go a step further in almost every aspect, just like we did with every new Witcher game we released. Releasing a game under a new franchise entails many challenges and risks, especially when the concept is so complex. We have brought to life the huge futuristic Night City, bustling with life, in which non-linear stories of heroes take place. We are proud of many aspects of the game, but as we know, not everything went our way. Nevertheless, the awareness of Cyberpunk brand that we managed to build is huge, and the game universe, its character and detail have fans all over the world. We believe that in the long term, Cyberpunk 2077 will be perceived as a very good game, and like our other titles, it will sell for years, especially since the equipment will be more efficient and the game will be improved by us all the time, as well as the version for the latest generation of consoles. Of course, the premiere taught us a lot, it gave us a kick and motivated us to make change that will make us perform better in the future. Now, hopefully it did, especially because, this is not the first time that CDPR has problems with, releasing out games, because The Witcher 3 was a great game, there is no denying that, but also that development and also the release followed many controversies and just basically the lack of management skills. And now basically when they started doing a new IP with, Cyberpunk 2077, obviously things have kind of went up even more, and obviously some of the minuses within the company were very much apparent after the game came out, because obviously they couldn't just get enough time to bring out this game out in the open, and with all of the delays, changes and everything, they just backed themselves up to a corner that, well, did what it did. Now after that, they mentioned the further development of Cyberpunk when it comes to next updates, additions and versions of the new consoles and when they're going to be released. They also mentioned that the postponement of the premiere for next gen version to 2022 was disappointing, and there were voices that you will miss. The good sales, the time associated with the end of the year, because it's true, most games get bought during the holidays. For kids, whatever, you buy yourself a game because you want to treat yourself, etc, etc, so it makes sense, because usually the first quarter of the year is usually the worst one, and they're releasing in that one. So this is what they said. So this year we will no longer be releasing any updates to the game. We are working intensively on the version for the latest generation of consoles, which will be released in the first quarter of 2022 along with major update patch 1.5. So it seems patch 1.4 is gonna be skipped, or how they're going to do this. Maybe there was a problem with translation here, but nevertheless, basically when it comes to updates, they are done for this year. We're not getting anything else. Now, from my perspective, on one hand, this can be good, but only if the update that comes out after that is like very substantial, because if you take more time, obviously people expect that patch to be bigger and bigger, so the more time you take, the more people expect, in a sense. But yeah, he also added this: the decision to postpone the next-gen version of Cyberpunk was difficult, but we are convinced that it was right. The more so because it clearly resulted from the recommendation of our development team. The quality was as high as possible. Like, obviously, if developers said, we need more time, and the company said, okay, you're gonna get more time, ultimately that's good. because when you force people to release something which is not good, you'll get problems, which was Cyberpunk release. So if this decision and this postponement is actually going to help the game, and it's actually going to make the release of next gen actually good, and it's not going to have problems, then it's okay. Because if they released this year and the next gen version had problems and it wasn't really up to standards, like, that would just be more and more trouble for CDPR. So this was a risky thing to do, but at the same time more safer from the PR perspective. Then they also moved to The Witcher because especially they were worried like what's going on with the delay of The Witcher 3 Next Gen Edition and how is that going, because that was actually delayed for the second quarter of next year, so it's coming after the Next Gen Edition of Cyberpunk 2077, especially because, you know, with the analysis out there, you know, they are not going to get the most people from the second season of The Witcher, because usually when the season of The Witcher comes out, you're gonna have more people wanting more of The Witcher, and hence those were the games which, like when season 1 of The Witcher came out, saw a huge boom. So potentially they're losing out a lot, and this is what Adam Kiciński said. So basically the work of The Witcher 3 for new generations of consoles is carried out by Saber Interactive, that's something we know, and because they actually finished The Witcher 3 almost 7 years ago, technology has dynamically advanced, new solutions have appeared. So, you know, they're updating the game to the latest console, it takes more time than we expected. This is also something that happened previously, like they just keep doing stuff and they come out with different problems than they expected. That's why ultimately it's just good to save the release dates hidden as much as you can until you're actually ready and you don't think you're gonna have more issues. And they also said obviously they are going to be releasing the free DLCs which were inspired by Netflix series. There was also a question later on if there is any more plans to add a third large IP to the studio's portfolio, or will the group's operations continue to be based on The Witcher and Cyberpunk brands. And basically this is what Adam Kiciński said. We are currently focusing on our two franchises, both have enormous potential, so one of our strategic goals is to start working on AAA, large high budget production projects in parallel with our IPs, which is expected to happen next year. So basically next year they're gonna start working on something bigger when it comes to AAA, so probably something related to The Witcher along with everything related to Cyberpunk 2077. At the same time, obviously picking a third IP wouldn't really be good at this moment because currently they just have to fix the Cyberpunk IP, and also everything with the next edition of The Witcher has to be good. So we shall see how all of this is going to happen, and if this is actually going to help the studio, or is everything just going to be the same. When it comes to the number of employees, they were asked about different projects and what they were working on and how all of this is being organized, and this is what Adam Kiciński said. We currently employ over 1,200 people. There are about 660 developers in CDPR studios. Less than a third of them work on updates and next generation of Cyberpunk 2077, so the rest are working on different projects obviously. Every month, more and more people are working for the first edition to Cyberpunk, while the rest are working on Gwent and other projects. These other projects are going to be interesting because especially they acquired the Molasses Flood studio, which is now they started work on a project based on one of our IPs on either The Witcher or Cyberpunk 2077. So that's going to be another game set in this IP, and how is it going to be, what is it going to be at the same time, we don't know, but that's why they're buying these studios. Now they also ask about, consolidation in the market, do they have money in their accounts, will there be more acquisitions, and this is what Adam Kiciński said. As a part of the strategy update, we announced greater activity in the M&A area, which we confirmed in recent months with 2 transactions. Both fit perfectly into our development plans, basically the Vancouver team, which joined CDPR, and the Molasses Flood, which I talked about. They also do not rule out further transaction of this type in the future. The goal of our acquisition is to strengthen development teams and obtain additional support in the implementation of our strategy. Therefore, in this type of investments, we are most interested in experience and competences, and we attach great importance to whether a given team will fill into the culture of our group. Now, when it comes to someone buying out CD Projekt, because that's something that I get on every single one of my videos, that Microsoft is going to buy them, I keep telling to people as of right now there are no plans for that, and you know, so far CDPR is still sitting on the money, and this is what Kiciński said on that. We have been repeating for years that we plan to remain independent and we do not plan to become part of a larger entity. We are also not looking for a strategic investor, so far they don't need any help from that. How is this going to change, and is this going to change in the future? We don't know, because things always change. They were also asked about protection against hostile takeover, which is basically if you have enough people on the board, you can basically make all kinds of decisions and even remove CEOs and founders from the company. And this is what they said. Yes, there are records that make enemy takeover much more difficult, or well, hostile takeover much more difficult, so at least they're covered when it comes to that. They were also asked about the hack which happened in the company, what is going on with this case, and basically that where they made any changes to the security of their company. So basically the proceedings are still pending, and because they're still under investigation, they cannot provide any details. So it seems when it comes to the hack, these things are still very much ongoing. Also, they were asked about lawsuits from US investors that have appeared after the release of Cyberpunk 2077. Does your company perceive these lawsuits as a significant business risk, or is there no reason to do so? And this is what Adam said. In August, we filed a motion to dismiss in which we commented on charges present in the lawsuit. In the next steps, the plaintiff's representative referred to our request, and then we referred to his letter. These are standard steps in this type of proceedings in the United States. So basically, things are still also in motion when it comes to the lawsuit. And also for the end, they were asked about dividends. Is the management board considering recommending a payout in 2022, or will this year's profit go to reserve capital? Because obviously the company can choose whether to pay out dividend or what, you know, happens with that. But this is what Adam said. It is definitely too early to talk about next year's dividend. The time for analyzing our financial situation, issuing recommendations in this matter will come after the publication of the annual report for 2021, which is also something coming out very soon, which I'm going to keep my eye out on. So this is basically it for this video. Thank you so much. Hopefully you learned something from this interview. So far, these are just words, obviously, you know, the classic PR move and, you know, talking about the future and what could happen. But at the same time, what could and what will happen is a different thing. So hopefully they do happen. Hopefully the game is actually worked on, and hopefully everything goes well for the studio. But at the same time, people want to see actions, and so far we have to see them. Again, tell me down below in the comments what you think about this. Also, if you enjoyed the video, like it, because it does help out the channel a lot. And also don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Discord. Also, huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. And this is LKM signing out. Stay classy, everyone. Bye bye.